Subscriber Edward LB20 asked a question about attaching an ice axe to your wrist versus your climbing harness. And Edward LB20 says, could you elaborate please on the decision to choose an ice axe through the harness versus the wrist loop? Edward LB, thank you very much for the question. For you watching this, please put a question in the comment below and I'll do my best to answer them. So you can actually purchase a specialized wrist loop just for carrying your ice axe. So you can put it through, it's got this nice extender, and they're really nice, they're quite fancy, good piece of kit. And the key is if you drop your ice axe, it doesn't rocket down the slope and then you lose your ice axe, because that would really stink when you're trying to arrest. So having the ice axe be on your wrist is a really great way to go. Now this is the fancy style where you can buy a pre-made one. I, however, have also just used 1-inch webbing. Just made my own wrist leash, just put it through the neck of the ice axe. I put my hand through here and I'm ready to go. This is a little less trouble than the sliding wrist leash. Your mileage may vary. People like all sorts of different variations. But then there is the option to actually attach the crab or carabiner to the ice axe through your harness. Let me show you that. You've got your harness here, standard climbing harness, and I just attached the ice axe to the belay loop because, well, it's not going to take any real load. So you just put it through and it's got a nice stretchy bungee here. And then you simply click this onto the ice axe there. You can even spin the lock. And now I've got an ice axe that stretches way out and it can go on my harness. And the good part about this is when I let go of the ice axe, it is still attached to my harness. Now, just like the wrist leash on my Black Diamond Venom here, I've got the wrist leash and I can attach it to my wrist. So if I let go, that's all good. But the one downside of if I need to change gloves, change gear, change a layer, is with the wrist leash, I have to take the wrist leash off, and now I've let go of my ice axe. And you think, oh yeah, I punched in the ice. You'd be amazed at the stuff that happens in the mountains where you let go of the ice axe and then choom, it disappears. The big advantage with the waist leash where you can attach it, and there's actually ice tool dual leashes, which is really nice, is even if you have to change your gear, I can just totally let this go and my ice axe will stay with me. Total benefit, right? Well, there is a huge, huge downside to this style. And that downside is the bungee effect. I have almost fully driven the pick of the ice axe into my face because of the bungee here. Even though the bungee's nice, if I just hold it here, with my heavy ice axe, it's no big deal. But with my Camp Coursera Nanotech, I have put this on my ice axe, or my crab leash, and I will show you just what almost happened to me. So good thing, you can take gear off with the harness leash, no problem. But the downside is, if you get that bungee going, this thing, if you just let it go, will literally come straight into your face. I've had it where I'm like, oh my gosh. So the big downside, there you go. Now also, there is the clatter effect where you're going along and you can hear that, and that drives me nuts. However, there are some guiding services which absolutely require you to have your ice axe attached to your harness, and without it you won't be able to climb. Like on Denali, I've seen a couple guide services in years past where you're absolutely required to have your ice axe attached to your harness, because people lose their ice axe and then it's a real danger of sliding and dying on the mountain. So benefits of the wrist leash: super light, super simple. You can put it on, take it off, and it's no big deal. Super downside of the wrist leash, if you have to change layers, change gloves, and you take the wrist leash off, and you let go of your ice axe, phew, that sucker is gone. One other benefit to the wrist style leash is you can put this here, You can grab your ice axe once you have it positioned, and it will actually carry the load perfectly. So you can pick away at stuff, which is very nice. You cannot do that with the attached to your harness option. I just don't really like that. So let me show you the threading process I use for my very inexpensive but highly effective 1-inch webbing. Simply feed it through there again. Come around, feed it through. And I've already pre-measured this. This webbing has been around like forever. I should probably replace it, but it doesn't take any load. And now I've got my wrist in here. I've got it set to where I can grab my ice axe. So if I need to reach and I let go of my ice axe, when I'm picking away, if I need to pull myself up, it's not a proper ice tool. That's a different animal. But I have had it where I punch in, the axe slips a little bit, but my wrist has grabbed it. With the harness connection, the ice axe just kind of goes wild. So some pluses, some minuses. The upside of the harness attached leash is, well, you will never lose your ice axe. Big downside, it is bungeed and it can come right back into your face and cause you a severe injury. So each one has its plus and minus. This is an absolute, you must decide what you are comfortable with. Usually I just prefer my wrist leashes. I'm very careful in the mountains, but things do happen. But after having this almost come back to me in my face, I'm somewhat wary of this, but climbing fixed lines like on Denali up from 14 to 16,000 feet, this is super nice because I can punch it in, mess with my gear, and I am for sure not going to lose this. So I use a combination of both personally, and I bring 2 ice axes on Denali because sometimes 14 to 16,000 feet, there's a big ice wall and you got to climb that thing. It really is pretty tough. So hopefully this answers the question for you of which attachment to use. There are pros and cons to each. Be safe out there climbing. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.